information, and I can move it wherever I need to. And now you see Justin Neely is the man, right? I actually, as I was telling some other people, I just bought a house. How many people have gone through the negotiation of a mortgage and all the paperwork associated with buying a house, right? So I did all of the paperwork other than the signing, other than the closing. I did all my paperwork on the iPad. My wife has an iPad, so when my realtor sent us the contract, we were both at work. Normally, what would you do? You would drive in, you would meet somewhere, you would wait, you would do it at night. Both of you would go through and sign or initial each of the sections. I pulled it up. Since we share an account, an app store account, we both have access to this app. She pulls it up, I pull it up, we sign them, email them back and forth, and send it back to the broker.
Talk about that, sharing an app store account.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right way within an office environment to keep things in sync or the same apps on it, or is that...
Office environment, no. Home life, yes. And Apple actually suggests if you for your home,
right,
use one app store account. And if you really want to get into that, I can show you some things. You do an app store account, but everyone in the house, I would suggest, has an Apple ID, right? And you use one app store account for purchasing, and then you use individual IDs for things like Find My Friend and Find My Phone is another app, and some of the other devices.
I was going to say, everybody pick out your menu items. We don't take orders. And sorry, just keep going, Justin.
No, that's fine.
Put that in there.
So, but within an office, depending on the size of the office, it really depends. But right now, I would say it was 2 weeks ago, Apple came out with a program called the Configurator, and it actually will allow you to configure set profiles for all the iOS devices, and you can then push out those profiles based off of the network. So you can configure what goes on the iPad, can set it all up, and then push it to each of the iPads within your office. There's some configuration you have to do in the configurator, but for the most part, it's a pretty seamless way to work. And then you can also download and turn on and off the ability to use different accounts. So that's one way, right? You've got to put a stamp on a document, you print it out. What do you do with the document once you're finished with it? You've signed it or you've put your stamp on it.
It's saved on a network location.
So then you scan that document back in and save it?
Right now I use an Adobe stamp.
Okay. Okay.
So
it's still paperless?
So it works paperless.
Right.
I need to be in my computer. And
Okay.
I can tell you that the number of clicks is really important. Adobe added one more click in another second that it takes me to stamp that document.
Okay.
I do that, hundreds of times a year. It adds up.
Sure.
The efficiency of the process is really important, as opposed to someone else printing it for you, putting it in front of you, and you initially. So that's where some of the barrier.
So you could definitely do initialing here. That puts your stamp on it. It also does time, date stamps for when it is. And I can't, once it's signed, then I actually can't change that signature either. So there's some things that go into Sign My Pad. You may want to have your compliance group take a look at that. But Sign My Pad, as I said, I used it all through the closing of a home. Again, from the realtor to me, documents back and forth, initialing, over to my wife, initialing, and then sending it back to our broker, and all the way down to the closing. At closing, we signed all paper, and that was really because I couldn't get them to use iPad. So that's one example. What else? Why else do you print emails, or what else do you use on a day-to-day basis that you use paper?
I have to review a lot of documents, and I find it's just easier to use paper so you can highlight and make notes and
Sure.
just see the page, the way it's laid out.
What type of notes? I mean, what type of documents? Word documents, PDFs?
Usually Word documents.
Word documents? So I'm going to show you, here's another one. It's called Goodreader. You can use Keynote. I like converting everything to a PDF. Primarily, it's a little smaller than a regular dock, and it's a little more portable. So I'm going to show you what it's like to do this in so here's a PDF, right? And you'll see on the right-hand side, I'm going to pull up, click on the ABC highlight, I'm going to save this to my file. I select the color, and then
How does that signature button work on Sign My Pad? How are you getting your signature in there? Sorry.
that's all right. It pulls up a signature here at the bottom. I can pick the.
Sorry, I can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can pick the different thickness,
Okay,
right? I can pick the color.
okay.
Most everybody likes black, right? And then I just sign.
Huh.
And then I move it around. So if I want to put it right here, then I tap on it up at the top of the screen. Then I can make my signature larger or smaller. And that's it. When I hit done, I can't change that.
Right.
I cannot erase it either, right? So no different than I'm signing with a pen.
Right.
It's done, right?
How is that? I'll have something to sign and I'll print it out, sign it, and I'll scan it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can you store the signature, or you can just pull
It
it
does
out?
not in this, no. It is specifically made to be a secure way of signing documents. Now, there are other apps that you can use to sign documents, and you can save your signature and apply those.
What if you're just trying to stamp your initials, time, date?
Sure you
Is this the
You
right
can
app?
use one of those other apps to put those in. And you can save those
Which one do you recommend?
as images and put them in. It really depends on you and what I would say is that if you're only doing it for one app, find something that's pretty quick and easy, and you can plug it in. Keynote or Pages will do the same thing. You can pull up an image and throw that in and then save it, and then you can edit it and move it around later.
Can you email from here, or so like I use Documents to go and I'll open
So
something?
I would save this. And then at the top, I can save it to Dropbox, I can send it to somebody, right, I can print it. But there's the document.
Okay.
I can email it, right?
What about file system? You mentioned Dropbox. I think I saw GoodSync. Is that GoodSync on there?
Goodreader.
GoodReader,
Mhm.
okay. Well,
File systems to me now, so that to me is once you start using the device a little more, that's where file systems come into play a lot more. Depending on your company and how your security is set up, my suggestion would be something such as GoodReader. It allows you to mimic the file systems that you have access to. You can also
Just out of curiosity, do you know how to rotate those things?
the documents. Yeah, it actually has a rotation. Hold on a second, we'll go back to it. But I've got several. You can see down here. I've got several FTP sites that I connect to, different servers, so I can add those. The top two are actually Google sites, Google Documents. Does anybody use Gmail? Okay, if you have Gmail, then you probably have access to Google Docs, and those are my Google Docs site. That's where I save a lot of my information. My personal information is out on Google Docs. It's free. I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to have a separate account. Everything that I typically would do is here, and it's in one location. It's accessible out from the web. I can edit the document from the web. There's several advantages to using Google Docs.
what about VPN access?
It does have VPN access. You can set that up under settings.
I will say that gets a little tricky sometimes, so you have to get where you network out on that.
But you've got to know what type of, I mean, once you start, if you've got the different type of security features that you have, Cisco security or is it another one? But you can do VPN, and you can have it set so anytime you hit a particular network, you immediately pull up that VPN, or you can initiate it on the internet. And once you're there, then you can get access to the local network and download your files. You could set up, in theory, you could be at home, connect up via VPN, download your documents, edit the documents on the iPad, and then push the documents back up. If you're using wireless, LTE now is out, so if you're using Verizon LTE or 4G or 3G, any type, you're driving down the road, your wife's driving, you're working on your way to the beach, right? You've got 4 hours of work time that you're sitting there, and you can be connected to your office and edit documents.
I was going to say Cisco has an AnyConnect app that works fairly well if you have Cisco.
I'll show you, I have another app that I use personally. So I travel, I would say a good bit. I used to travel a lot more. So when I first got the iPad, I used an app. I set up something at the house. It's called a network attached storage. It's basically a hard drive, right? And it's connected to my network at home. And so this is another way I save information, right? I actually have iTunes. I love movies, so I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of movies. I've got 350 movies that I keep on here. So I'll be on the road and I'll pull up a movie and watch it wirelessly from the hotel room, all from my iPad. I connect up my iPad to the TV, and now I'm watching it all through the hotel TV for free. They're giving me wireless, and I'm accessing and streaming the movie.
So you're just connecting to your computer at home?
Actually, it's not my computer. It's called a NAS. It's a network attached storage. It's 4 gig or 4 terabyte storage device, and I've got it just sitting on my wireless network at home.
Really?
And so I've set up security. I've got it pretty locked down. So I've got security set up, and then I use this app similar to the Cisco app. So if you use a Cisco Anywhere app, it would do a similar device. You would pull it up. So if you wanted to edit a document from on here, you would pull it up and then edit it and then save it back to the device. And you would push up to the directory. But I have access. I really have access to my folders as well. I mean, I've got documents and things like that I can pull up. So all from here and open them up in any of the pages, notes. Does everyone know the Macintosh or the Apple Word equivalent is Pages, Numbers is Excel, and Keynote is PowerPoint. So I use those for editing and displaying the different types of Office documents. If I have to edit any of those.
What was that app you were just using there that connects to your network storage at home?
At home, it's called, you have to have the Buffalo network attached storage.
Okay.
So if you buy theirs, you can download this app, and it's in the actual installation instructions. iOmega makes another one, Western Digital. Any one that you would buy has it. The key is it needs to be a network attached storage.
Yeah,
if it's just a plug-in, you can do it, but then you would manage it through your computer. It's actually a little slower that way. Faster at home, but slower when you're away.
Okay. What were those 3 apps that you just said for Excel and PowerPoint?
Oh, Pages is for Word.
Okay.
Numbers for Excel. And Keynote for PowerPoint.
Will they read the Microsoft version you can work on and save it back, or?
It is, well, yes and no. It depends on how complex your document is. I have been, I would say, 85% successful. A lot of it depends when you get into, how many people do presentations with the smart forms or the smart art within PowerPoint? If you do any of that, the smart art doesn't always convert over. What I'll do, and I do several presentations a quarter, I will actually convert my PowerPoint. Once it's finished, I'll convert that to a PDF and display it on here.
That's what I did.
And it's seamless at that point. Now it's just images, right? As long as you're not doing animation, then it works really well. I haven't seen too many. If you're going to start getting in my opinion, and this is my humble opinion, if you start doing a lot of animation within PowerPoint, I would suggest converting them over to movies and starting and stopping the movie. It's a little more seamless. You can do a lot more with it. I'm sure Ken can tell us all kinds of different apps to use for movies and things like that. But iMovie is one. There's something that's a lower end, but you can get into all kinds of things.
If you're gonna use it as an export as video file, you didn't know that.
If you're gonna use a projector,
Mm-hmm.
can you use this?
Has to have HDMI.
The projector itself has to have HDMI.
So a lot of the older projectors do not. If you use a projector, there is, and as I'm talking, I'll show you. So there's some other little cables and stuff that you can use.
To go into a serial port.
Actually, yeah, I've got a couple of different ones. I'll try and pull both of them out. So one of them is, and I keep these with me, just they're lightweight, so I carry them around all the time. One of them is just your standard video cable, right, with audio, and you can plug those into your projector and just project. And then it's got a charge, so you can plug that into the wall, and it'll charge your device at the same time. And you plug that into the bottom of the iPad. The other is
So that would work on a projector then? So you wouldn't have to have HDMI?
no,
But you can't walk around the room either.
right. You can't walk around the room.
Gotcha, that's for it.
You're gonna do exactly what he's doing.
Gotcha.
So that's one, and then I don't have any. The other one is a VGA connection. So most of the projectors have VGA cables, and you plug them in the back of the computer. You can do the same thing. There's a VGA connection. It's like $35. But all of them are about $29 to $35, and you plug that in as well. And
What about projecting to other iPads in the room instead of having a TV screen?
there are some devices. I haven't actually used that yet, primarily because I haven't found too many people that are as avid iPad users, and when I start doing that, I tried it once. I used a notes app in the beginning called OneNote, and it allowed me to share information back and forth. Another one is New Notes, I believe, does it.
Well, I think you might also be talking about like a Fuse meeting where you can mirror your screen.
Yeah, but you can actually set up, you can do something like Fuse Meeting or WebEx. If you've heard of WebEx, that's a popular one. Go to My PC is another one that you can share information. A lot of the push types, which is more, I'm gonna initiate a server on my iPad and allow everyone in the room to connect and view what I'm seeing, is a little different. It's a little newer technology in that we're doing this on a web server based, and it's all whatever wireless device or whatever I have in the room. I've used it a couple of times. It likes Bluetooth over Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth is slow when you get more than two people trying to connect. I just haven't used it. I'll do WebEx. I have a WebEx account, so I use WebEx more than anything. In fact, I'll pull up WebEx and use it a good bit for all kinds of different apps. But Go to My PC is another one that has essentially the same thing. And to note, with WebEx and Go to My PC, both of them will allow, as well as Skype. Skype will allow up to 6. So all of them will allow up to 6 people. You can do a stream and show your, other than Skype, with the two web people. Sorry, Go to My PC and WebEx, you can show your screen and do video at the same time. So I could stand here, right, hold it up, it's going to see me, and I can show you my screen all at the same time. But that's, in my opinion, not a lot of people do that. I do a lot of client services work, and I'll tell you, I ask every year, I ask my employees, can we start implementing video conferencing? So true video conference. We do a lot of video conferencing already, but in most cases they just use the conference and they don't use the video. And I'll tell you, every time I ask, they're like, no. I said, why? Why is it a big deal? They're like, I don't want to be seen. I just can't understand. I don't know why. But nobody wants to be seen on the video. Most of them are women, so maybe that's it. But, so I haven't had a lot of success in implementing or deploying video conferencing simply because people don't want to be seen on the screen. In a large group, I do a lot of that. I've done some conferences, so I've done speaking like this over video conferencing. So I've talked to a group here and then had video conferencing going on with another group on the TV. which is interesting. But, and that works, it works really well. Then that's all in-home device and things like that. But, a couple other apps I want to show you. So again, paperless, working through, I'll tell you the number one thing that you can do if you really want to go paperless. Learn to type on the keyboard. Right? If you sit at your desk and you hunt and peck, you're going to be on your iPad and pecking, you're not going to be as efficient. If you take notes now with a pen, I would say first step, just pull up and try and take notes on your computer. Right? Just sit. When you're talking to somebody on the phone, see if you can type them up on the computer. Get really good, and get. I haven't researched a lot of the old typing ones, but I know when I was learning, it was Mavis Beeman's typing tutor, right? That was years ago. But get something to really learn how to type. It took me about a month, no lie. It took me a month, a good 2 weeks before I could let go of paper. When I started when the iPad came out. As I said before, I had been looking for something to go paperless. I wanted to write my notes and then have those notes automatically convert into text. They have a few apps that are okay at that, but they're not good. And I was even opposed, when I was in law school, I used Palm. Does everybody remember the Palm technology, right? They converted, HP bought them, and then now it's like the Web OS and everything else. But I had a Palm that I took notes with their own technology, right? So you remember, if you've ever used a Palm, you'd have a T that was a little backwards 7. So I went and learned their script, and so I was sitting in the back of the room in law school taking notes on my little Palm device, and then I would sell my notes at the end of class. Right, because I was the only one that had notes right after class, and it was right there. I could say, hey, give me $5 and I'll email them to you. Right, and I could do all of that from my Palm device. So really, if you think about it, this is even better now. I can sit and type. It's much faster. I can pull up all kinds of different information. I'll show you a couple of things. So one, learn to type. Right, if you don't type, learn to type. Second, take the time. It's going to take you at least 2 weeks to get comfortable with typing on the screen, because you don't get feedback, and it's all touch. It's actually, you almost hover over the screen and have to learn to type. But force yourself. Take notes on it. Well worth the effort. Once you start doing it, I'll tell you, I ran into a situation, so I've been doing it for 2 years now, going on 3. I sat in a meeting, we were watching, there was an upper executive in the room, and at the break, he asked why I wasn't taking notes. He said, do you think you're better than everybody else? And I was like, no, sir, I don't. I'm actually probably taking more notes than anyone else. And I said, let me show you. I showed them to him. He's like, wow, I had no idea. So as a result, I actually normally bring...
So we're better than everybody else.
Well, I didn't say that. But I actually brought... they had me send my notes out after the meeting. So, yeah, and I was able to send my notes out, all typed up, sent while we were... right as soon as the meeting was over. I take pictures, right? So I leverage both devices. While I'm in a meeting, if I'm doing something, I don't take pictures from my iPad, because then I have to pick them up and select it, right? Just take a quick note, pull it up, snap a shot, put it back on the table, keep going. If I need to edit the document, then I will actually pick up my iPad, take a screenshot of the whiteboard. I mean, how many people work off the whiteboards? If you work off of a whiteboard or do whiteboard work, at the end of it you want to save that. I will take a snapshot, put it on here. In most cases, I actually try to take notes, and I don't know how you do on your paper, but when I'm taking notes in a whiteboard type session, I will actually draw everything out on the iPad just like I would a piece of paper. Right? So as you're up on the whiteboard and drawing things, I'm going to be over here. I'll pull up a little drawing app, and I may draw something and may add a text, and right, I'll pull that over. I'll do something like that. These are some basic apps that you can use.
This one's called Sketch. It's from Evernote.
Yep. I can draw arrows. So I'll pull in, I'll go back. You know, you can take in, so for instance, so here's a meeting, right? I'm looking at a web page. I took a picture of it, right? Does everybody know you can hold the home key and the power button? If you hit them at the same time, it takes a screenshot of your iPad. Okay?
Say that again?
So home button and your power button at the same time takes a screenshot.
It'll click and fade like that. Don't hold it down though, because that's the
reset.
the hard reset.
But just, yep, there you go. Quick little
Hard reset.
But you have to do it You have to do it
And that'll go to
for 5
photos.
seconds.
I'll go through a couple of quick tips. Another thing, take 4 fingers, and if you're on the latest OS, take 4 fingers, and you can actually swipe to the last app. Everybody get that? So, and if I want to go to the one before, I swipe to the right to go to previous apps. I swipe to the left to go to the back apps, right? So you think of them in a line, just as you would at the bottom, and you can swipe back and forth. So that's some quick tips that you can use, right? So I'm going to swipe over. I'll pull up my photos. I'm on wireless, so it's already done photo stream. So everybody's heard about photo stream. I'll go through this. It pulls up. Photo stream allows, if I'm using another iOS device, photo stream allows me to immediately see that other photo. So if I've taken the photo, if I've taken a photo here, right, a real quick photo, we'll give it just a second, it'll stream over and pull up on my iPad. But from here, right, I took a quick screenshot, and that screenshot could be, and this is the way I use, I do a lot of Word documents. We had mentioned before, Word documents that I need to mark up. This is the way I do a lot of my Word documents. I will actually pull up, I don't use this app, I use an older note-taking app. But I will pull it up and actually, you know, here's something that I want to do. You may want to draw under and say, hey, this, and, right? You mark it up, and then I can save this out, and then I will actually import that into Evernote. I use Evernote for my note taking, and I'll get into that here in just a moment when we actually start taking some notes. But you can mark up. You can take a screenshot, mark it up, and then let's just pull up. Right, so now you saw me take my picture from the iPad, and here's from my iPhone, and there's pictures. So I can take what, you know, if you're on wireless, if you have access to wireless at your office, you can take notes. What I do a lot of times if I'm presenting, I will actually take notes from my phone. I mean, how many people text? How many people would admit you send at least 10 texts a day? Right? So you probably are just as fast with your 2 thumbs as you are with your fingers. So I will, in a lot of cases, I'll keep my phone over here, and when I'm presenting, I'll actually take notes from the presentation on my phone through Evernote, and when I'm done, it's still in the same notes app of Evernote. So I can pull that up. That's a neat little trick. So you can, again, thinking mobile, thinking traveling. You can present from here. If it's a simple and you're sitting down and you're just kind of going through some things, I will actually, all of these devices connect up to the projector or to the TV on your iPad as they do on your iPhone. So all of the things I'm showing you from a projection standpoint, I can do on my phone.
The iTV works with your phone.
Yep. I probably have to disconnect, but we'll pull that up. I'll show you. All of that will work from your phone as well. Actually, my remote is my iPhone. So the remote for the Apple TV is iPhone.
Justin, I've got a quick question.
Of course.
I'm probably the only guy in the room that doesn't own an iPad right now. I'm slow on the uptake with technology.
Too up.
And but I'm real excited about what you're showing me. What's the best way, kind of as a novice? You know, I've got an iPhone. I know how to use it reasonably well, but all the apps and everything else can be kind of overwhelming. any tips for getting your employees more technologically oriented?
Our company doesn't, we have not adopted the iPad. We're still in a beta phase. So from an employee standpoint, it's all personally paid devices, right? So I can't say from a company standpoint what we do. What I can say is set up Genius in iTunes, and if you haven't used Genius, go into iTunes. If you've got an iPhone or an iOS device, you probably connect it up to a computer. Go into Genius, set up Genius, and it'll suggest apps, and then surf the App Store. No different than you would surf the web, surf the App Store, and do some searches. It really depends on what you're trying to do. A good example, I was telling some people earlier, I didn't want to buy a TV. My wife wanted me to buy another TV for my daughter. Right, we were changing houses. She wanted me to buy an extra TV. My daughter was wanting to watch what she called the big TV all the time. And she had one of the little small Sony DVD players, right? We were popping in DVDs. Well, how many people have kids, right? How many people have kids that eat crackers and all the other stuff? So I was constantly trying to fix this little DVD player that cost $250. I'm like, if she breaks this thing, we're going to have to go buy another thing. All it does is play DVDs, right? So when she said she wanted to get a TV, I said no, and we got her an iPad instead. So at the time she was 3, what I did was I started searching. Right, the first thing I did was set her up with Netflix, because all the cartoons are on Netflix, right? And I put all the requirements so she can't get the bad ones and whatnot. But I did that. I started ripping all of my old DVDs and as well as all of her DVDs out to that network attached storage. So now she can get to all of her movies. She can get to the Wonder Pet. At the time, it was the Wonder Pets, right? It was, Jimmy Neutron and all of those, right? She's watching those, so we're ripping them and putting them up. Grandparents buy DVDs. I keep trying to tell them to give her an iTunes gift card. They won't listen, so we rip them. They come in, I rip the DVDs and put them out on the network, and my daughter knows how to scan and look for them out on the network.
All right, rip.
So take the DVD and convert it, move it to digital format that Apple can read.
How do you do that? The machine?
For your PC. There's an app, I can't even think of the name of that.
I can sort of put it PC.
I can't even think of the name.
One called Rip It.
Yeah, I want to say Rip It is it, but there's one that is free, and Rip It, I believe, it has an expense. There's one that's free. It's it comes actually. You can download and install it for the Mac or PC, either one. The key is just, before you do it, and this may be illegal, but if you're converting it and you own the DVD, I don't see any problem with it. I would say when you rip it, make sure that you're getting the right encoded tracks. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the DVDs actually, they'll put, if you've ever looked at a DVD on your computer, you'll see like 64 different channels, and each of them have chapters, right? Well, each channel may be the movie, and it may be in a different order. So it's, channel 1 may have the first part of Tangled as the last chapter, and it'll go backwards all the way through, and then that, so on and so forth. So this particular app actually runs through each of the channels and identifies which one is in the right order. But I'll always verify. So rip it, make sure that you got it, put it over, and you can save it on your computer or your hard drive at home. The other thing, so going back to looking at getting into it, the next thing I did was say, okay, well now I've got this, in my opinion, a pretty powerful device, right? I've got a PC in her hand. What else? I mean, she's 3 years old. What can I teach her with an iPad? So rather than watching movies, for the first 20 minutes every day before she can watch a movie or play, do anything on it, she has to play a game. And I specifically got several games for her, and they were all Montessori games. Everybody's heard of Montessori, right? These are Montessori-type games that teach you how to learn. So I got her games to teach her math. So now she can count to 100. We're working on the odd and evens now. She's 5. and we're trying to differentiate the difference between odd and even, but this is the Montessori Counting app. Another one was learning your ABCs. So we learned that for some reason she picked up pretty well. Now we're into spelling, right? So before she does anything on movies, she has to spend 20 minutes playing one of her games. And so in her mind, a game is playing with the letters, moving them around, trying to match them up so A-N-T spells this little character up above, just little things like that. I found that by going out and typing in preschool. And a whole slew of things came up, right? So then, no different than you would picking, doing any other research. You look at it and go, okay, how much is it? If it's free, then I'll download it, and then I'll delete it later. If it costs money, it may be worth a little more. Let me see how much. And you can kind of get an idea just by clicking on it and looking through some of the reviews. I think are extremely helpful. Right, you can look up and see under your feature.
Hey Justin, will you reconnect to the TV in Boston? This is what the Apple TV looks like without mirroring, so.
So anything that you select, if you haven't gone out there, it gives a brief description. You can click on more, and it gives you a pretty in-depth description of what it is. It tells you what's in this particular release. It'll give you screenshots of what the app looks like, as well as reviews. How many people have reviewed it? It's the reviews. No, one thing to note: the reviews are all by version. All right, I don't know if a lot of people realize that. So, Instapaper is a huge app. Has anybody heard of Instapaper? I mean, it is a big app. It's a lot for reading news and saving and reading news later. But I can tell you, I would wager a large amount of money that more than 346 people have looked at this app, right, and reviewed it. It's probably more in the 10,000s, right? So when they're reviewing, it's on that current version. So keep that in mind. But you can see on the current version, 346 people have reviewed it. Or 373, 346 of the 343 have said it's an excellent app. So I would go on that, right? And then typically, no different than I would on Amazon or anything else before I buy something, I'm going to scan through and read, 2 or 3 of the reviews just to get an idea of what people really think. But that's the way I would start looking at apps. Find a need. Go back to me trying to go paperless. My first need was, what is a note-taking app? Right? I still haven't found the perfect note-taking app. In my opinion, there are a couple of things that I need, and I'll start getting into Evernote as we do that. I need the ability to take notes, right, just to type in my notes. I need the ability to do bullets. To me, bullets are pretty big, because you want a topic and then you bullet things out, right? In some cases, you want to differentiate. So I need to be able to differentiate. I typically do that through bullets. I like the idea of bold and italicized. I don't have to have that, but that's helpful. I also want to be able to take, and this is more of a revolutionary thing, in my opinion, than anything else, but I want to be able to do my to-dos in line. Does that make sense to everyone? So when I say in line, meaning as I'm typing my notes, I don't want to switch to another app to make a to-do or an action item, right? In my world, they're typically called action items. So as we're in a meeting, people are talking, and go, okay, Kent, you've got this action item to do, and I just want to keep typing my notes. I don't type absolutely everything people say, but action items, the key points are the things that I'm taking notes on. Action items are what I want to recap. If I'm the actual presenter of that meeting, or if I'm the senior exec in the meeting, and I don't quite understand all the information, you guys will probably know everything about your business. I don't. I'm more of a tech person, right? So at the end of a meeting, I may have a subordinate that runs the meeting, and I have no idea, relatively speaking, right? But I don't have a clear understanding of maybe the technical pieces of what they're doing. And so I'll recap and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, and these people people had action items. Does everybody agree with this? And they say yes. Okay, when is the next meeting? And I'll put that next meeting as a written action item at the bottom of my list, right? So that and what I want is the ability to then alert me in a week, right? In theory, anything should be handled in a week. If it takes longer, explain why. So I want something that alerts me in a week. Hey, just check this note, check these action items. Don't have that, however, Evernote does allow you to take inline action item notes or to-dos, and you can search those, not only by that note, but you can also search them across all of Evernote. And I have found that extremely beneficial. So when you're picturing your day, your workflow of a day, and you want to pull up all of, I manage my life by 3 things. By my calendar, which I'm sure most people do, through meetings and whatnot, through emails, which are in a lot of cases are action items, right? And I read emails based off of information, actionable, or need to interject, right? So I have really 3 ways that I read my emails. And that keeps me pretty sane. Otherwise, I would never get through all the emails that I have. I mean, how many times do you get an email that may have 15 people commenting back and forth, and they're really just hashing out one point that you need to read the last email without, right? And that's what you really need to know is that last bit. That's all. In a lot of cases, that's all I look for. I'll let people go back and forth, and I'll read the last email of the day. And then the third are through my to-dos that I take during notes or during the meeting. So all of the meetings that I've had on my calendar, I take those notes through Evernote. So, and I use Evernote pretty extensively. I won't get into some of the ways I'll do it. I'll just say if you are on the web and you like workflow, you like automation, I would ask you to take a look at IFTTT. There's a website called IFTTT. It stands for If This Then That, and it automates a number of your web-based actions. I take all of those actions that I do, anything that I do on the web, so from any Twitter, any tweet that I may put out, any Facebook post that I put out, or someone comments on me, as well as any pictures I post or articles that I may read and want to save, all go into Evernote. And it's almost like a diary of the day. So anything that happens to me on a particular day, or I've done in a particular day, is in Evernote, and I can go back.
Justin, how do you organize that? Do you have a file that of every day's Evernotes?
Evernote, so let's go. Evernote is categorized by notebooks. And you can see a lot of those notebooks up at the top. So all the way down, you can see I even have business cards. I take all of my business cards and I put those in Evernote. And so all of my business cards have now been scanned and they're in an app on my iPhone. I save them to Evernote, so if my iPhone happens to be stolen or for some reason I can't get to it, or
what's your business card app?
BizCard, I believe it's in. I've been using it for a couple of years. I really like it because it also will allow me to again, thinking paperless, and a business card's paper. Scan biz cards. Scan biz cards will actually allow me to, if I walk up and I meet you, I can pull up the app and I'll say, what is your email address? And I'll send you a card. And it will send you my business card in an image with all my contact information in 2 different forms. One typed in text, the other is a V card that you can import into Outlook or Lotus Notes or anything else. So again, another way that I've taken that business card, and rather than you having to go back and type it in a real simple manner, I've given it to you, given a picture of you, given it a picture, given text, as well as giving you a V card that you can save forever. But it's Evernote is organized into notebooks, similar to what you would do back in college or high school. You've got your classes by notebooks. I organize everything by a notebook. I won't be able to show you because some of it's, for compliance reasons, I can't show you all of my notes, but I'll organize everything via notebook, and
Is everything stored locally? What about backups?
everything is stored at Evernote.
Okay.
So it's a cloud-based device.
You can sync to your laptop and have a local version too.
Or your desktop to your computer.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But the benefits of it, again, are that as I'm here, I can take notes on my iPhone. I'll give you an example. My daughter, we were at sometimes, although I carry my iPad with me everywhere, I don't always carry it in everywhere, right? If I go to a student-teacher thing, right, where our orientation for my daughter's school, she goes to pre-K at Our Lady of Sorrows down in Homewood. During the orientation, the principal started going through a few notes, and I'm like, that could be beneficial. I wish I'd have brought a pad and, oh, wait a minute, I can take notes right here from Evernote. So I pull up Evernote on my phone. Now, she gave me an evil eye because I was sitting in there, everybody else is writing. She didn't look at anybody else, but because I had my phone up and I was sitting here typing, she thought that I was texting or doing something else. Not the case. You're going to get that for a while until people start adopting, right? But I took all of my notes right here on my iPhone. Even my wife was like, what in the world are you doing? You were what? I said, maybe here. And I emailed it to her. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. So, I mean, not everybody thinks that way. But again, the idea of this is to get you thinking about other ways. What are some other ways that you can not pull out a piece of paper and write it down? Now, with that note, now it's immediately broadcasted to all of my different devices. So I can pull it up from anywhere. I can edit that note. If I took a picture, I can import a picture into it, right? There's several different things I could do. Here's a tagline, right? He said that I was an author. So, at the bottom of most of your pages, they do a little bio. The magazine that I write for wants just a couple of lines, and I put in Justin's the VP of Client Services, a technology enthusiast, and uses Apple products to make life easier. My motto is technology, growth, and innovation, right? Everybody's using the change is inevitable, right? I like growth, technology, and innovation. So that's my tagline, that's my picture, but I just put out an article, and so it pops it out there, right? You can do other things like here's an audio clip. Let's do something a little different.
Are we still in Evernote?
Mm-hmm. This is all in Evernote. All in Evernote. So let's take a quick note. So I pull up Evernote now based off of your calendar. So if you use if you pull up your calendar within your iPhone or your iPad and all of your appointments are there, it's going to look at the current calendar and it's going to put in the title of that meeting at the top. You see it's kind of in gray? So if I select it, right, I can keep going. I can add a tag. Does everybody know what tags are? So let me give you a sense of what tags are. So within the notebook, everybody picture a notebook in your head, right? And then you remember the five subject notebooks? They were a little larger and they had the tabs. Think of tags like that. A tag is a tab, in other words, right? And I can create as many as I want to. Almost like, and I actually think of it more like a trapper keeper. Does everybody remember the trapper keepers? Right, where you could just insert as many as you wanted to. That's the way I'm a visual guy, so I visually think about it as a trapper keeper. And anytime that I need a new section, I create a tag. Receipts are a tag for me. So if I get ready to leave,
Is it kind of like a Twitter hashtag?
Similar. So you can search it, right? So a Twitter hashtag is the idea that you can search by a particular current topic, right? And so I don't use it quite as liberally. I try to maintain tags in a little bit separate way, but tags in that fashion, yes, you can search those. But a receipt or any picture or anything else, I'll take a quick note. So I had Chinese yesterday. I'm going to pull up my iPhone. Instead of saving that receipt, I'm going to take a quick picture of it. I'm going to throw it away. It'll come up in here as I take a picture and save it. So I'm taking it in Evernote. I'm gonna put a quick tag just called receipts, and it will actually organize everything from here. And it's all in there. But a couple of things, so I'll put a tag, I can then type. And
Hey,
right?
Justin, real quickly, I know you've got time constraints. I wanted to let everybody know, helps know about the time constraints. I have to leave. I have a sick daughter. This will be recorded, so I'll push that out. And then everything's paid, so when you're ready to leave, take care of it.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank
you.
But you take your notes, and a couple of things, so you can, I can select, and I can bold them, I can italicize, and what I find and what I've been able to see is more really beneficial are, I can add this little checkbox, right? And this is what the way I do inline to-dos. And to me, it is a fabulous little add-on that Evernote's done. If we could do reminders, I think it would make it even better. But and I've sent in several requests to ask them to put reminders in, and I get a reply back saying they were looking at a full to-do add-in that will go in. So that's promising. But then I'll actually add my action item right there. I'll save it, and from home, and I go under, I can pull up, my apologies if I have. I can pull up all of my to-dos, and you see at the top here, to-dos equal false. And that means any to-do, and the to-do is the box, anything that is open or doesn't have a checkbox in it is available. And so you'll see all of my to-dos that I have some type of open checkbox in it, right? And then I can go in and select those individual notes and say, oh, well, here's an action item that needs to be taken care of. And in most cases, it'll have some type of date and time or who's responsible, and from there then I can flip over and type a quick email. I can copy and paste that into the email and say, hey, I saw that on this date you had this action item. It's been about a week. You know, what's the status of that? An hour later they may send me an email back saying, oh, well, I've done this and this. We've completed, the client's happy. I will copy that, put it back in my note with today's stamp on it, and we're done. Right now I've got a stamp. I'll click the box, and the to-dos are completed. So that's the way I would manage those to-dos.
How did you insert the box?
It is at the top, right here.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to select that. I like to put a space just so it's easier to read, and then type in whatever.
Put a check in it.
You can put a check in it.
Okay, you select, I got you.
And they're selected. And then once I save, you'll notice that when it updates, it'll come back up and it'll be off the search. One little app, being from a financial background, I really wanted to push out and show it. How many people look at Bloomberg on a regular basis? Okay, so here's the Bloomberg app. You've got news, and I can pull up Bloomberg News. I can take a look at things. I can zoom in. Right, I can look at it all the way back. I mean, there's several things that you can do from that. I don't know if you can do that on your computer. I don't use Bloomberg at the office, but I pull up and watch different industries. But you can look at it from an industry standpoint. All right, I can click on and pull up the different stock. So that's one, right? I can go in if I'm looking at currencies. I've been watching currencies pretty closely lately. I can come down and add. I can drag this up and I can add that to my currencies, and then you see it pull back up, and I can customize it a little bit. So it's a pretty cool app. I've really enjoyed working with it. It is a free app. Bloomberg TV is also a free app, and you can watch Bloomberg TV streaming it over wireless through your iPad anytime. That's another one. How many people know? Do you know what an RSS feed is?
I've seen it, but I don't really.
All right. So real quick, because if for me, news and information, consuming information, the faster I can consume information, not only going paperless, right, but consuming information is extremely important to me, because the more I learn, the more I know. The more I know, hopefully I become a little wiser, right? So consuming information is key. Right now, how many people read the paper? How many people read the physical paper? Okay, so I read the paper on my iPad. An RSS feed is a stream, usually by a company or an individual, of information. So news articles, and I'll pull up. I use an app, and I absolutely love it. I've only found one problem with it, and I'll show you in a minute. And it's really more for saving the information than anything else. But Early Edition, it formalizes these RSS feeds as a newspaper, and you'll see that it's assembling the paper now. And just to give you an idea, I don't know how it works with AirPlay. But just to give you an idea of the information, again, my whole purpose in this is to consume information. I don't need to know absolutely everything, right? That's the way I read the paper. I'm going to scan the articles, something of hot topic that I need for conversational pieces, because again, I think no different than I do my emails. I need some for just information and just know that they're going on. Others you may have to get involved with. Others are actionable. I read the paper. I consume information in a similar fashion. So. So I have feeds on all of these topics over on the left. And the numbers are the number of articles that are in each section. And each section may consist of 5 or 6 RSS feeds. Okay? So then what it does is it takes all of those feeds, and this app, the Early Edition, will actually allow you to go in and just check box. So makes it a lot easier than going out and programming in the RSS feed to stream in. I use Google Reader, so I like Google, a lot of the Google products as well. So Google Reader will allow you to go out and save, and you'll notice at the bottom of a lot of the USA Today, if you read it on the web versus the app, at the bottom of the web it will actually say RSS, and you can copy and paste that into the reader, and you can create your own paper, right? That's essentially what I've done. I've got the front page. I can jump to local news, and then I can scan through all the local news, right? And it pulls from you. Right now, I think mine are USA Today, Business Week, Wall Street Journal, CEO Magazine, and I think I've got one more. But so these are all of the RSS feed articles for the day, and I do them by date, right? So when and it's interesting, when I started reading the RSS feeds, the main reason I did it was because does anybody do Twitter, or do you get on Twitter to follow anybody? So if you're following people on Twitter, I'm always interested, how did they get this information? Well, actually, that's the way they're getting the information. I'll follow you, who is a Wall Street Journal author, right? You're a journalist. You will write your article, push it out. The Wall Street Journal will actually publish it through RSS the day before, and they're catching those through these. So I'm watching the same thing with a lot of the people on Twitter. And then as a result, I use IFTTT to take a section, the ones that are more popular, the different feeds that are more popular, just from a PR, from my own personal branding perspective. I pick 3 or 4, and then I post those. Those are automatic posts that are going on in the background. So while I've been here for an hour, I think it does it every 3 hours. I'll have at least 2 posts out on Twitter and one on LinkedIn that I'll do every 3 to 5 hours. And it's all automatic. All based off of my particular style of reading and what I like to stay interested in. So again, something automated, you don't have to do a lot, and it posts for you. But,
Are you paying for those subscriptions?
no, they're all free. I told you, I think I told somebody I'm pretty tight, they're all free. They're all
So
free.
that's the Wall Street Journal?
Wall Street Journal has a free subscription. CEO is not, but I like it because I will actually pay for that subscription. So I can click on the link and then log in.
So you're saying with Wall Street Journal, if you do it through the RSS,
You do get a number of free articles.
But you bypass all those aggravating advertisements in the free
Yes,
edition.
no ads. Well, I won't pull one up. You see it at the top of the screen here, CEO. Right, so here's what they're gonna write about this in that episode later. But that's one. I'll also do the Birmingham magazine. So I call it local news. To me, it's not quite as good. You don't get as much information in it. But it'll tell you everything you need to know. But that's the article, and that'll be probably in the paper at some point, right? So I read information that way, and what I do is I just scan through, no different than you would in the newspaper, right? You just scan through the articles. If I find something interesting, I'll click on it, and then I read it. From there, and one of the reasons I like doing this digitally is, again, from a personal branding perspective, if you want to post that on Facebook, if you want to post it somewhere, then you can quickly and easily post this out on Twitter. I can add a comment, and I can send it. So I tweeted that, right? I'll also, if it's something that I'm interested in and I want to read more, do research around it, I'll actually save it over to Evernote. And that's the one feature that I don't quite like about the app. In the RSS reader, there are some more robust readers. It will actually take the entire article and put that into Evernote. I like that better because Evernote is searchable, as you saw with the to-dos. I can search any word in Evernote, which again, going back, as I wrap up, going back to paperless, the whole reason in my mind that you want to go paperless is that you can scan and save and look for any old notes. Think back, how many, do you keep your notes from 2, 3, 4 years ago? Right? But they're in a notebook, saved in a file, right? And you have to remember, when was that? What, you may have to go back and look. I can quickly, I've got notes now for 2 years. I can quickly go in and type in any point. I'll give you an example. I had a client the other day, a regional bank, that said we didn't do something for them, right? And I said, I thought we delivered that back last year. No. Hold on a second. And while I'm on the phone, I pull up the note. No, you signed off. Hold on, I'll send you my notes from that meeting. Right? It's not hard. I'm not trying to put them in. I'm just, here's what we said. This is what you did. Oh, wait a minute. I can probably pull up the email that went along with this. If it's a big deal, then a lot of times I'll actually copy and paste my emails into Evernote as well. So I've got all of that information in Evernote. Pull it up. It's searchable. No question. Now, anybody who's in legal, you also know now if you're saving that, then there's problems there, right? You're culpable for any of your saved notes, so you may want to look at getting rid of them at some point.
When you started talking about early edition or RSS feeds, you mentioned Google Reader. How did you pull those two things together?
So Google Reader within the RSS feed, within the setup, I actually pull, my reading mode is Google Reader. And when I first got into doing the RSS feeds, I used Google Reader. So I would suggest setting up a Google Reader account. This app is only on the iPad. When I am out and about, say I'm waiting on someone, again, I try to go through the entire paper in a day. And you can imagine, I've got over 1,000 articles to run through, right? So at down points, rather than sitting and checking the web, pulling up the website, looking at USA Today, or having something in the background that may distract me, when I've got a free moment, I just pull it up, look through that page, it saves my spot. Now I go back, I start working again. But with Google Reader, I can actually pull it up on my iPhone as well. I can pull up those same feeds. I'll pull up, and it's not in the same readable fashion, but I'll show you real quick. I'll disconnect But anyway, so I can pull up a similar article, and I can read it all on my phone. Right, and I have the same abilities to save and post and everything else. So I'm in between meetings, and I've got everything set up to talk. I may just pull up and look through a couple of articles. Again, I'm not going to read no different than I would the newspaper, right? You're not going to read absolutely every article. You're going to scan and just go, oh, hey, did not see something about the hoodie, right? How many people have read the articles about the hoodies now, right? Well, it came out several days ago. I saw something about hoodies. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. My wife was mentioning, oh, haven't you heard the hoodies? I'm like, no. So I go back, I pull up and scan through, okay, well, maybe I need to read this article the next time it pops up. Little things like that. Any questions?
All right, well, it's like John and I, neither one of us have an iPad. He left. I'm still here. If I'm going to buy one today, what do you buy?
A lot of it depends on files. I would not suggest the 64 gig. I bought that my first round, and I put all kinds of movies and everything else. It was just, I didn't use that much. I would suggest the 32 gig. A lot of it depends then on travel. I wouldn't go out and just buy one today. What I would do is, you have a smartphone of some sort?
BlackBerry.
Okay, so check and see. In BlackBerrys don't have wireless. So you need to find out how are you in wireless more than you are traveling, right? If you're traveling more, then I would suggest getting the broadband, the 3G or LTE from Verizon. I would suggest doing that. You'll find in this, so a couple of big topics that you may see coming up over the next, I would say the next year, is really going to be data. Data and the consumption of data is going to be huge. I think whichever company can get to a consumer-driven plan that works is going to be the one that pops up on top. The next one's going to be, you may have heard this, big data. Have you heard those topics of big data? Essentially, let me post a picture for you. Everything that I've got in Evernote, right, put that in company format. Every email, every correspondent, all your notes, all of your databases, right? So how many times do you have databases of massive amounts of information? I'm thinking of my customers, right? I mean, that's what we do is take and process these massive amounts of information. Big data is bringing all of those facets into one, searching it, reviewing it, and doing some type of analytical decision with it, right? But consuming and analyzing and using all of it together to identify a customer type, to look at a marketing plan, to streamline a workflow. So I would, and I say all that to say, first, data is going to be key, right? So I would look and see if you're on a wireless, if you're everywhere you go and the places you're going to use it are going to be wireless, then I would use wireless. If you're not really sure, you got to be honest with yourself. If you're not really sure that you're going to use it all the time, and you're around a wireless 50 to 75% of the time, don't do the 3G. It's just an extra expense in my opinion. But then again, you can do things. One of the you can do even some really neat. You know, you've got even some cool games.
I would disagree with one thing.
What's that?
I'm not as tech savvy as you are, certainly. I can't tell you how many times I think, thank God I got the 3G.
Okay.
Because this would be a dumb terminal.
Nope, I agree. Except if you're around wireless and just from a pure expense standpoint.
Yeah. It's $20 a month. It's worth it.
Except if now they're actually going up.
Yeah.
They're going, and that's the reason I would question, and the reason I got into more of the data. As you start finding it, you're going to use it.
One time you need it, it's there.
It is
So,
there.
like, I got a lake on that. Should I get internet access there or just buy this?
It's probably cheaper to get internet access at your
Yeah.
house.
You already have cable.
I can get the internet access.
There you
It's
go.
$30 a month.
$30 a month is cheaper
Then
at your lake house than $30 a month for 2 gig. You can one movie is 1.48.
We turn our internet on and off.
hit the lake.
So it comes on in the spring and off in the fall.
Perfect.
So it's cheap.
Good, yeah. And it's much cheaper than a $30, $50 where you're only getting 3 to 5 gigs.
I didn't get the
LT on mine. Just because if I use it for work, and if I'm gonna be traveling for work, they'll give me a MiFi.
Air card.
Yeah, an LTE card, so, and then personally, everywhere I go, I mean, here, I'm connected with Wi-Fi, egg place, you know,
Okay.
everywhere's got, Wi-Fi, but my lifestyle's different too. I don't travel a ton for work. We've got AT&T hotspots all throughout all our buildings at work. You're never away from Wi-Fi, and, you know, our huge campus overprotected, so. And I did get the 64 gig though, and I'll probably.
Do you use it?
Well, I haven't had it very long, but I was reading some stuff that with the new iPad with the high resolution screen, that a lot of the files are getting a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And if you're going to if you're going to watch movies or bring movies locally, since I didn't get the 4G, I'm not going to be able to download them if I'm taking a trip or something.
Yeah,
Then I have to store it all on here, and if I'm going to have HD movies or anything on here, then, you know, it'll fill up pretty quick if you get a few movies on here.
I can get, with the 64, I was able to get 12 movies. With this, I get 6. 6 is typically pretty good, but then if I run out, then I actually use my phone as well. So since I've got the cables, I'll put another 3 or 4 on my phone, so now I'm at 10.
Yeah. And then it's really only as long as you're away from Wi-Fi.
Exactly. So, but yeah, you're right. But I mean, all the way down to some little things that I found. I mean, you can play games, right? So now I've got the iPad as the controller, and with the Apple TV, then I can steer and do everything else from here, right? So
The sound comes out of there?
yeah, sound will actually come out of the TV.
Nice and long. How do you back up?
Oh, I think for my son.
Right, so here I am for my iPad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Death truck.
Thank you very much. Yep, my pleasure.
Thank you.
But
If I can help with anything, feel free to reach out to Ken and get my information, and I'll send it.